fans, stand up to your full height and celebrate this champion team.
The winner of the 2022 Norm Smith medal, Isaac Smith.
Hello, I'm Damian Barrett. Welcome to Access All Areas. We're here thanks to Crypto.com. Geelong produced its most complete performance on Grand Final Day, Matthew Lloyd, and it capped a completely beautiful season for the Cats.
It was, Damo. I heard James Brayshaw in the commentary say they are a champion team, and that's what they have been, a champion team. It hasn't been about individuals. Different players have done it on different weeks, and what a performance that was, to win your prelim by 71 points and then your grand final by 81 points. They were far and away the best side and a dominant side, and I'll remember them for a long time for how good they have been.
And you can see the emotions flowing when the siren goes, Lord. They knew it was coming, but to actually hear the siren and then to have the tears that flow, and we'll talk about why there may be some significant tears with Hawkins there and Selwood, but you're right, the qualifying final against Collingwood was their toughest performance of the back half of the year. They needed to get over the line against the Pies. They did narrowly, and then it was almost a breeze from that point onwards.
Heading into the finals, I think their average winning margin was by about 5 or 6 goals, so no one was getting really close. It was Richmond on the MCG late in the season, then the first final. But aside from that, they probably had 2 easier run going into the finals just because they're that good a side.
So 16 wins was what they finished the season with, all in a row, obviously being capped with the grand final. Same number that Brisbane Lions did in 2001 to win that year's flag. Same number that that Carlton did in 1995 to win that year's flag, Lotto. So it's almost crept up on us how dominant the season was. And when you see what they did with the 71-point or 81-point win in the grand final, there wasn't a near club. I mean, they finished the home and away season 2 games clear. Yeah, and the unfortunate thing for them, or they may go on, I'm not sure if this team will win back-to-back or 2 or 3 in a row because of the age demographic of them. But I think, in terms of an individual season and the roles that different players played and, what Jeremy Cameron's season, the amount of all Australian players they had, but then the role players and what parts they played, I'll remember this team as one of the great sides that we've ever seen. They evolved on the run, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
They started slowly-ish, got it going midway through, and then they were able to find the goals and scores from stoppages that weren't always the strong suit of this footy club, Lord. That stoppages line there, look at the contrast between the average for the season with what they did on grand final day.
It was a midfield mauling, so we see points from turnovers. That was on par with what they normally do. They get 59 points from turnover scores. They got 62, but points from stoppages, normally 35, 6 goals they normally get, but they got 11 goals out of stoppage goals, so that's where Sydney would be pretty embarrassed with their midfield group.
And 4 of their 6 goals in the first quarter, which ultimately set the game up, came from that stoppage for them. 2 of them from this man, Tom Hawkins, who just ragdolled, unfortunately for him, Tom Hickey twice.
It was a demoralising way to have 2 goals scored against you, where your ruckman just gets pushed out of the way, and you don't normally score goals in this fashion. So, that was a bad way to start. At half-time, Damo, stoppage scores were 6 goals, 5 to 2 points. So, it gave Geelong a lot of confidence and demoralised Sydney within 10 minutes of the game.
We've spoken regularly, Lord, over the 10 or so years of his time in the game, of Mark Blitzarve's evolution as well. So, he's a best and fairest winner in 2 different positions. He's now a premier midfielder and a contested beast, and he was on grand final day.
He was just too big for them. He was too big, and we're going to look at the down-the-ground vision later on about how he hurt Luke Parker there. But is he the most important player in the comp? There's a lot would be hard to argue with what he does for Geelong and the importance
even that.
he plays for Geelong. He was on Isaac Heaney there. Too big, too powerful. This one here, his ability to grab the ball and run. No one knows how to play Mark Blitzarve. They've got no idea. I actually threw up here on Friday, do you send Callum Mills to him? For that very reason, because no one knows how to play on him and no one's ever tagged him. They may have to do that next year.
Well, if you're going to tag him, you need a motor that no one's got. I mean, have a look at this, Lord. You wanted to bring this to the table. Exclusive AFL.com.au vision, down the ground. Centre clearance, stoppage in the middle. Now, we've put the circle around Mark Blitzarves and how he rotates with Stanley in the ruck and what responsibility on the run he's prepared to assume.
Yeah, so Stanley holds back for him, so he's pretty much the ruckman at this point. There's a confusion, mass confusion. Who's on him? Who is it? Should it be the ruck? Should it be a midfielder? And Parker's out of his depth. on the goal line. You know, turns him inside out, takes a big mark, kicks a big goal. So, yeah, he's an intriguing matchup. As you said, it's hard to stop because he can be wing, ruck rover, ruck. He can do it all.
Talking about the club timing its run, no one, I think, individually and personally timed their run better than Paddy Dangerfield.
Yeah.
An extraordinary career already, Lordo. Best and fairest, Brownlow. And then produced this type of grit performance on the biggest game of his life to this day.
Yeah, I love even talking to youngsters who may be watching Access All Areas and watch how he never, ever loses his feet. So Heaney's on the ground there. He's gone. Patrick Dangerfield does not fall over. And it's his explosive nature that he's got there that separated him from every other midfielder on the ground on Saturday afternoon. So I would have loved to have also seen him win the Norm Smith medal. I think Isaac Smith deserved it, fully deserved it, but I saw Jonathan Brown gave him 3 votes. The importance of what he did on the inside was phenomenal.
And he nearly got a goal here, and maybe had this gone through, I think it was just going to miss, but Sam de Koning took the mark and kicked his first goal of his life from that Dangerfield kick. 6 goal assists in the grand final. That's a grand final record.
Yeah, amazing, Damon. And even after half time, I felt like Sydney were trying to make a charge. He wasn't going to let it happen. The driven nature of that grand final, that'll live with me for a long time as well. And his prelim was phenomenal as well.
He'd often, I think, Lotto, taken on too much pressure to perform in big games. And his clanger count was up in finals, contrasted with the home and away season. So it's 3.4 clangers in a home and away season on average. 4.6 was the number going into that final. The fact he got the 6 goal assists in that game suggested he came in with a calmness, and he has spoken about that, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think it's the way Geelong have played this year. Paddy, we don't need heroics from you. Just play your part. And in the past, I agree. It's like he's trying too hard. Whereas this year, he just seemed calm, composed, and just did what he needed to do.
And they didn't need him to be what he has done regularly because of the overall pressure that they apply and the Geelong system, which just continually, throughout the course of the year, and particularly on this biggest day of the season, just broke the Swans down. Yeah,
we wanted to reference this because Sydney have been spoken about all year. What a pressure side Sydney are. Look what they've done to Collingwood in 2 games. They're the only team, that can bring down Collingwood from a pressure perspective. But because they're so brilliant by foot, they move the ball so well, they've got superstars, we never ever reference pressure. Reece Stanley, I loved his game. I think he's been maligned.
Great season.
He played a wonderful season, wonderful finals game, but this just was unrelenting. And look at the scoreboard, 86-27. There was just no letting up on Sydney. They just kept at it. Collar Jasny, you want to reference this one. Look at this score, 10 goals, 11 goals up. He just kept going and going and forcing.
You loved Collar Jasny's past in finals.
Yeah, I did. He hurt himself against Collingwood, and yet his prelim and his grand final were the 2 best games I've ever seen Collar Jasny of his life ever play. So many stories like that with Geelong, and full credit to their development team. There
was already a redemption story for the ages with Tyson Stengle's All-Australian performance in 2022 to then come out and kick 4 goals, 4 brilliant goals too, in a grand final to take his season tally beyond the 50, Lordo. Again, I don't know what we can say about what he's done this year at his 3rd club, having twice been let go by other clubs for disciplinary reasons, for the right reasons at the time. It's
a life changer for Stengle. So this is bigger than football. I think getting in the Geelong environment, having Eddie Betts, having all these great people around him, on field and off field. It's amazing for Tyson. So I don't think he would have done this at another club. We've seen him not do it at another club, and to be All-Australian, kick 53 goals, but become a better person and a better individual. What a great story he has been.
So you mentioned that the life-changing component of Tyson Stengle there. It's because of the leadership of one Joel Selwood. And we're going to make him the Crypto.com brave play of the grand final, Lordo. There were so many facets to his life before this game, and then he had this most beautiful of moments by taking Levi Ablett out through the banner before the game started. It was Joel's idea. And just look at little Levi's face here, Lordo, light up when he realises he's about to go through the banner. He then played one of the great first quarters of a leadership person on a grand final day in that first quarter, Joel Selwood. And then he just continued it. He produced the tears from his teammates, and then had his great mate Sam Morford come onto the ground in all the celebrations after it.
Yeah, amazing. There's always been great admiration for Joel Selwood. He's been maligned by some because, whether he plays for free kicks, but aside from that, I think there's...
Look at that goal.
Amazing career, Damo. We're not sure if he'll go on next year, but what a career he has had. And
I don't know whether you gathered any intel out of the room, Slot. They're certainly tight-lipped, aren't they, as to what happened. I think he's played his last game of footy. That's just my opinion on what I witnessed in the rooms, on the emotions here from his greatest mate, Tom Hawkins. And it all comes out in those moments, Slot, when the siren comes. And I think he's too classy to have anything. And even Max Holmes didn't play the game of footy. Made sure he went and saw him. He went and saw Tom Harley, his first captain of the premiership team at Geelong, now CEO of the Sydney Swans. And there's Sam Morford with him there. And he's always thinking of others. But he's too classy to make a retirement decision or an announcement to go on around this grand final win.
He shook every hand of every Swans player and official. Class act. What a champion he's been. Damo, you did an interview with Chris Scott in February. We want to talk about the coach now. And it's amazing now listening back to your interview with Chris for the themes that come out and how it all played out beautifully for Geelong.
There's a bit of a shift in our list and I think the way we play too will change off the back of some of those shifts in our list. So it's not just the new players that have come in, and there are a few of them, but players that have come in over the last 2 or 3 years for various reasons haven't really had a chance to put their mark on this team. At our best, we've been really positive with the way we've played and have found it easy to score. But at our worst, flicking the switch from being a good defensive team to being able to score a little bit quicker hasn't been good enough. Yeah, I must say that my level of enthusiasm, it only reminds me of the way I felt back in 2011, which I think is a good sign.
Can you win the flag in 2022?
Yeah. No, I'm very confident of that.
So we said that in February, and coming off that prelim final, the way they so badly lost it last year, it was a brave comment to make, wasn't it, publicly? And he was, as happens in footy, half ridiculed for daring to say they can win.
Oh, I didn't think they could, so but he knew better than us. It's amazing. Score better, score quicker, flicking the switch, and also there's some players within our group who haven't had the opportunity to play who are going to come through. So they saw the improvement in about 10 players at the same time that they never thought they'd get.
Well, the Swans were rattled from the outset. You picked it on 3AW, and I was made aware of these comments that you made, and you made them at the time. So this is not a reflective piece. The players lined up for the anthem, and you had this to say at that point in time.
They look a lot younger in the faces. They looked a little more overawed at times, Sydney, in the actual anthem. I like to read the faces of some of these players of how they look. I think the Geelong, a lot of them have been there, done that. The experience of Jeremy Cameron and Tommy Hawkins and Joel Selwood. I'm tipping the Cats to be too strong and win this grand final.
So there's your words, and here's now the pictures to marry up with what you were witnessing and which ultimately played out, Lordo. So they line up, and again, just reflect now on what you did see at that point in time. Yeah,
so I'm working on the day and I'm just watching some deep breaths. Just watch Lick Blakey there. He's just sucking in the deep breaths and the young Clark there. I just don't see confident faces. So I'm observing this, and you do as a coach. I coach at a lower level, and you're always looking at the body language of your players and your team. And I just didn't see an air of confidence in it. And some may say, how can you read it accurately? But then I looked across at Geelong. So we go through to the Geelong faces, and they had a real air of steely resolve. So with Jeremy Cameron, look at that face compared to some of the deep breaths that were being taken by the Sydney Swans. And Sydney are much better than what they show. They've been a wonderful, wonderful team, but they looked shell-shocked from the first bounce. There was fumbles. Tom McCartan was fumbling. Buddy Franklin was missing handballs. The midfield group, which are normally tough, weren't tough. Broken tackles. And I genuinely believe that they didn't handle this grand final well at all. And let's take a look now at what you're referring to there. So they leave that moment, that ceremony moment, and then start the game of footy. And they were all at sea. Yeah. I mean, they had no system or weren't allowed to play any form of system. And every time they had the ball, they were either panicky or forced to dispose of it in ways that wasn't of their planning. Yeah, Isaac Heaney's normally better than that. You know, first contest he can go to. Tui just kicks the ball inside 50. Not really good enough. Lance Franklin, that's an easy handball to hit. He handballs that straight out of bounds, then doesn't have a very good day himself. This one's, smothered out of bounds. There was 3 balls kicked on the full, and that man Blakey, who I just showed, how nervous he was, he's got to hit that, and he kicks that ball out on the full, Damo. Buddy Franklin didn't have a good day, Lordo. He's now lost 4 grand finals, won the 2, but the ball only went into his part of the ground 32 times. So he's not
to blame.
Yeah, it's a good call. I think you've got to be better than 4 touches in a grand final, but yeah, you're right. The midfield is the group I'd be looking at.
And the shell-shocked element of picking Sam Reid when the world knew that he was injured, and then having to sub him out. Of the Swans, who are you giving a pass mark to? 2
of them. Only 2 I think can hold their head up high. I think Robbie Fox's job on Cameron was sensational, on Jeremy Cameron, and Chad Warner, your man. I thought his second half, he was good in the first half, but his second half was unbelievable with what he did in the fight that he showed. Parker laid 13
He tried
tackles.
things early too, didn't he? They didn't all come off, but he got the ball to Mills for that first goal,
He did,
and he tried other things.
And I thought Parker laid 13 tackles, but I thought he was well beaten in the midfield by Dangerfield and Lixhouse.
Now, you're our correspondent when it comes to international musical acts, Slaughter. What did you make of Robbie Williams' performance in the pink suit?
The stadium was... I was just looking around at faces and the smiles on the faces, in the media centre and the crowd, they were into it. And to try and get 100,000 people, when you're in the middle of it, 100,000, it's not the ideal stadium.
In daylight.
Or in daylight, but yeah... He had everyone. When you know every song that he's singing, and then when Delta came out, I reckon it went to another new level as well. It was brilliant.
Again, I was on an outside broadcast, so I didn't get to see it live, but I have not had one person who I've spoken to who said it was bad. So that's unusual in itself. So I think he might have trumped the Killers and maybe Lionel Richie is the best ever. Now, Lordo, I was with Nat Edwards in the rooms post-match for AFL.com.au, and for some reason, you waited until the moment we hit record to make this about you. I don't know, where did you come from, and what are you doing on back of shot here? Seriously.
I don't know. There's my brother, Simon.
Yeah, Simon, who played a key role in the Cats winning the premiership as the footy operations boss. But did you have to use that moment just then to make it about you?
I just become a Geelong nuffy for 5 minutes there. I've never wanted to see Geelong win. I never wanted Geelong to win a game more than Saturday. So I must admit,
you didn't want to have that hug, but I had a camera shot.
Oh no, blood's thicker than water. So blood took over you at that time. You were the water at that stage, Damo. But don't you talk. At least I've got a tie to the team that was playing that day. My brother, what are you doing? I would never touch a cup that's not mine. The only cup I've ever touched was the 2000 Cup. What are you doing putting your dirty mitts on the Geelong Cup?
That idiot mutual mate of ours, Billy Brown, set me up there. He actually said, hold this, and I did, and then someone took a shot, and then I realised I was set up as I was holding it. That is disgraceful by me. I apologise on behalf of that. But, Lotto, thanks as always for your time this year on Access All Areas, and we'll be back next year to do it again on the 2023 season of Access All Areas.